Right, I've spray painted the main engine part, the two rims and the subsidiary engine part that glues into the middle of those two engine parts that are going to go on there. And what I've done is I've gone back to Halfords and I've picked me up some enamel spray paint in chrome, and it's safe for metal, plastic, ceramic and wood. It's a 300ml can and it cost me £7.99. And I'm telling you one thing, I've only just sprayed this. This has only been sprayed about, what, 5 minutes? And if this dries like this, I'm going to be well impressed, because to be honest, it's not looking too indifferent from when it was on the chrome sprue before I stripped it with the bleach. I mean, I've only sprayed the one side. Once this dries, I've obviously got to turn these over and spray the other side, but parts are looking absolutely fantastic. Fingers crossed, touch wood, they're dry like this. Started the first phase of the engine after I painted the chrome pieces, which was that one there and the main bit underneath. So I've got my two cylinders or engine blocks, whatever you want to call them. So I glued assembly one into place first, into the square hole with the semicircle, and then wrapped an elastic band round to hold it into place. Then I've got the number 7 and 8 assembly, which I glued together and painted in the chrome from the previous update, and then fed the pegs from the cylinders, because there's the 7 and 8 there. So I fed the peg into the cylinder shape there, but I didn't glue it. And then while that was holding down with the elastic band, I then put assembly number 2 into place, the engine. Put the peg into the actual hole of that cylindrical bit in the middle first. Then I glued it into that triangle stroke square shape at the back, that, if you remember from the previous update, with that hole. And then I got the elastic band again and just wrapped that round. 24 hours later, took the elastic bands off, and then I started with the caps, the engine caps. So what you do is you glue 9 and 10 on top of the engine cylinders. To be honest, I didn't really, I just got a bit of tape. I didn't do the elastic band. I just got a bit of tape and just wrapped them around the engine parts over the top and let them 24 hours to dry. And then I've got the two 11s. On this side it says 1, but it's actually 11. So then I've got the two 11s, and then just glued them on the top there. And again, with the tape, I didn't tape it on the chrome part, I just taped it onto the engine parts and just slotted them into place, and that was dead easy. Obviously I painted them first, so the E, which is the gunmetal, and then the C, which is the 36190, and as you see, I'm looking absolutely fantastic. So if I get my hand, put it in my hand, you can see how big this thing is. Once all that had dry, I then turned it over and put this assembly on, turning the page over. Now that assembly is number 16. You glue 15 onto the side, and then 14 and 13, which are black pieces off the black sprue, just put those together and then glue those on. Once the glue dried, did a bit of sanding work, and then just sprayed that in the primer. Again, C for the gunmetal, and then just repainted that on top of the primer in the black and just glued that onto the back. There's actually a locating pin there and a locating pin there, and that glues on lovely. And there's that 7 and 8 assembly in the middle. I still haven't glued that because you can see it still moves. But that's the first phase of the engine done. Just doing the last couple of parts of the engine. So you got whatever, I don't know if they were pistons or something for the engine. So you got 2 pistons in that mount, and you've got 2 pistons in that mount, as it says on the plans, which I've done. And then turning the engine over, one of the mounts will go in that semicircle there with the notch in the middle, which is that one, which is 17, and then you've got 18 with that semicircle, and that one will go in there. Then them piston rods, or whatever they are, will go into those 2 holes there, and there's one on that side as well. I've got to paint them in the chrome because I've done it on the primer. Then you got this case in here, which is which was a chrome part, so that's got to be primed. And then last but not least, you got this thing here, number 19. Again, that's been primed, so all I've got to do now is just primer this, and then these 4 pieces will be ready for chrome. Done a touch more work on the motorbike. This time the front wheel forks. So you've got the left-hand fork, sorry, the right-hand fork and the left-hand fork. As per the plans there, you put the right-hand fork, which is 27 and 28. The left-hand fork is 22 and 23. So you glue those together. And then what I did is I just wrapped some of my electrical tape, 1, 2, 3, let them set for 24 hours. Took the electrical tape off once it dried, primed it, and as you can see, the camera's picking it up, there's a seam to deal with on both sides, because with the cream coloured plastic it would have been hard to see that seam, so that's why I primed them, because the primer shows the seam better. So that's the 2 forks. You've got the fork bracer bar, whatever you want to call it, which is part number 24. So there's 24, that's all primed. That was in black plastic off the black plastic sprue. And then going to the wheel itself, you've got the one side wheel rim, which is 2 parts, which is 30 and 31. And then you've got 38A, which is on the other side. So that's 38A. I've primed that inside and out. There's 30 and 31. And that goes, you see the slightly raised on the one side in the middle of the wheel on that side. That one isn't so prominent, but that one will sit into that hole there, and you just push that into place, and that sits on there like that. So these bits now they're primed, I've just got to take care of the seam, and these will be ready to be sprayed in the chrome. Right, the second phase of the engine is now done. Like on the previous update with these rods, I primed them, which you know about. I then got my Halfords chrome spray, sprayed those. I also sprayed this one, which is number 21, which is off the chrome sprue, and number 19, which is also off the chrome sprue, which I'd already primed. So I sprayed this in the chrome as well at the same time as those and that one. Now, if you remember from the previous update, there was like on number 17 with the 220s, there's like a semicircle with a little tab that goes in there. So basically what I did is I just put the pins in first, the rods from the underneath to there. I haven't glued those, and then I just lined it up to the semicircle and the little tab, and then once it had lined up, then I put my glue in. For number 18, which is that one with the semicircle and the 220 rods, again, same thing, just put them in the underneath, then pulled them down, lined them up with the hole. Once I'd done that, I then ran the glue round. And I just got a bit of string and wrapped it round, because I just wrapped it round on those tiny little corners there. Just wrapped it round and pulled it tight so those would actually come glue right in to the actual hole, the mounting hole. Once that had dried, I then put the number 21 on. Now that just glues into the back of that cylinder shape assembly that sits in between the two main engine parts. There's a hole that glues into the mounting tab on there, and you can just about make it out. I've painted the chrome on the inside as well because that's visible. And then once that dried, then last but not least, this part here, which is number 19, just slot that into the hole. I didn't even need to glue it. So now that's the engine done. Right, the front fork assembly stroke wheel is now all glued into place. It's not looking too bad. So what I first did, you'd already know I'd mounted the rim into the tyre. I then got the little rod that goes through the wheel, glued it into the dome section, and then the 30 and 31 assembly, once that had dried in the dome section, I pulled it through the hole and then pushed it into the inside of the 31. So that's glued on there. So that's that done. Now with there's a channel on number 30, you've got to make sure that is upright. Because when you glue the forks together, like I said, 27, 28 and 21, sorry, 23 and 22, which I'd already done. I painted those because it tells you to paint the C on top of the chrome, but I didn't do that. So I just masked off the bottom of the forks, spray painted my chrome on, took the masking tape off, and then painted the C, which is the 36190. There is a subtle difference. And then the groove that's on that part 30, the left fork actually rests in that groove. And then basically what I did is I just ran the glue on the raised mounting tab on number 30 into the hole of the completed left fork. And then on the other side there's a mounting tab on the dome section, and I just pushed that in and glued that in to the mounting hole of the right fork. And then you've got number 24, which is the bracket. I haven't glued that in yet, that's just loose. So that, like I said, that's me front wheel done.